What is up, guys? Will Mosley here. I help millionaires make more millions, help startups start right. And if you're confused about leverage, about how you can make your 10 hours really look like 100 hours, how you can essentially 10x, 100x, 1000x your output and still do the same, still have the same exact time that you have right now. That's what I really want to talk about today. So if that's at all interesting to you, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's dive in. So first and foremost, what is leverage? Okay. Leverage is, as I define it, is essentially you are putting in inputs and then you're getting a lot more output than what you might usually get, right? So if I put in $1, right, and I get out $1, that's not the best, it's not the best leverage. But if I put in $1 and get out $2, $1 get out $10, that's when we start to really get into this kind of money making machine. And that's essentially what you're doing in business is you're just trading up your time. Most of us are working a day job, a regular job, right? That pay the bills. If you aren't working a regular job, typically what happens is you're not successful really at business just yet. A lot of the stuff is really volatile and it can cause you to make a lot of rash decisions. So I highly, highly, highly recommend anyone that's just starting out, have that day job. Absolutely. In your industry, whatever it is, and then use Saturday and your early mornings to essentially build out the business. It's going to be a much safer bet. It's going to be much easier for you to focus and actually grow because you're not stressing about all the money. So that, with that being said, sorry, my seat warmer was on. With that being said, when you look at the amount of hours that you actually have to build your business, if you follow kind of this formula of work the day job, you're also a father, also a mother, and you also have, a couple things that you want to do and vibe out, whether it's watching movies, etc., you are limited on your resource of time, right? And so it would make sense that you would want to get the most out of your time as you can. Because what it probably looks like, or at least I'll tell you how I operate, is essentially the day job is Monday through Friday. Perfect. Love it. The day job essentially, I pretty much take about 10% from each of those checks to inject into the business. So the business has the ability to, regardless of whether I have an up or down kind of month, it's stable because I'm able to have the talent, etc., whatever, and that's already financed from the day job, right? The idea is that your business then starts to make you a lot of money, and then yes, you can leave the day job and all the things, but before you do all that, you need to be able to consistently build without the stress of maybe running out of money. So that's why again I suggest keep that day job, vibe out with a day job. It's cool. It is so much. It's so much chiller. So you have, let's call it one day. My day is Saturday. My Saturday is like an all-day Saturday. It's like I start from like 5 a.m. and go all the way to like 10 p.m. So it's really like 2 days, and then I'm home Sunday for family day. That's kind of the big. That's the big day. But the question is how do I get the most out of that time? What should I be working on? How do I know if it's working? Should I have other people working for me? How do I hire talent? How do I hire good talent? When things go wrong, how do I not crash and burn? All these things are just unknowns, like in the business when you're first starting out as a startup. Because what you probably have right now, which most people do, what you probably have is like some good talent, some good skills. That's probably what you got, right? You're able to market yourself to a job, and they're able to hire you, and you're able to do a good job. But most times, most people don't have like much business, um, like any business sense, and that's okay. That's pretty much most of all of us starting out. Um, and it's a bit of a tough transition because you think that the talent that you have will be the thing that builds your business, but it actually is the whole entire thing that holds you completely back from building the business. And what I mean by that is when you have these A-level skills that you have, you then think that you can do everything yourself. And you can't. You absolutely can't. You might have been able to do your specific job in the business that you work because there's many other people covering all the other bases. But when you are starting a business, it's just you covering all of the bases. Base 1, base 2, base 3, all the things. And so you have to learn to have other people do things on your behalf while you also learn the skill of acquisition, of closing deals. Most people aren't really good at that. Most people haven't figured that out. And that is also why like a lot of the businesses is very volatile, and it's all the things. You're not being consistent about your inputs. Your inputs aren't optimized. You're working obviously just usually about 1 day's worth of work per week, and you're also getting bad leverage on your time when you're doing that. So how can we solve this? How can we like leverage up? So I'm going to start with maybe the easiest and then start working my way to maybe a little bit more, might require a little bit more input. Okay. First things first, no brainer, is you want to get a ChatGPT subscription for $20. This thing is probably one of the best investments you can make for yourself as far as buying back your time. I don't think I need to convince anyone of the power and the beauty and the amazing, goodness of AI and ChatGPT in 2025. But here's the thing. If you think about, you put in, let's call it 1 hour, or you put in 10 minutes and you're able to get 100 minutes out back. When you put into AI, right? You brainstorm with AI. You're like, hey, AI, I'm thinking about doing X and Y and Z, and it's like, great, love that for you. Would you like me to write out your services page? Would you like me to write out your pricing page? Would you like me to draft you a contract? Would you like me to tell you the pitfalls of what you probably shouldn't do? It essentially is you put in your 10 minutes or your hour or your 2 hours, whatever it is, and it is literally saving you hundreds of hours. Like there's no comparable thing that you can buy for $20 that is going to leverage up your inputs more than AI. Whenever you do outreach, right? Let's say you got to do 100 outreaches. You literally can say, hey, ChatGPT, here goes what I'm thinking. Here goes the overall message. Can you make 100 variants? So instead of you having to think about the variants, it literally makes 100 variants, and all you got to do is do copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Great, boom, 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 boom. Hey, AI, I really need to create an onboarding MailChimp campaign. Can you please write out the campaigns for me within the tone, the voice, blah, blah, blah of my audience? Boom, done. In seconds. So that right there is going to already just 10x your leverage, 100x your leverage in general without us doing anything else. Use AI for everything. Use it when you're confused and you're stuck at a problem. Use it when you need a second opinion. Use it every single day, all the time, because it is literally your advisor, your business partner in this. It's you and AI. All right, cool. That's great. So past AI, past the obvious, then how do we get more leverage out of our time? So let's say that, and I think Van Martel wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time or something along those lines. An amazing, fantastic book. I highly recommend listening to that book on Audible. Um, it really unlocks and helps you understand why you should buy back your time. Most people are like, I can do it myself, I can do it myself, I can do it myself. But the truth of the matter is when you are doing the thing that you say I can do it myself, you're also not doing the other thing that you probably should also be doing. So we need to get to the things that we need to actually get done, which is, like I talked about in the last video, attracting people, converting people, and delivering for those people. In each one of those, you can leverage up to have other people do it on your behalf. And you can do it as you are small, as yourself right now, as a startup. 1 second, coffee break. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's think about each part of the funnel and how we'll leverage out each part of that. So we need to attract people to our business. That is number one. If no one knows about your business, then they aren't going to buy from you. And like I know that I'm making content right now. Here it is. This is me helping give business advice and also hopefully attract you to the business. But I know for my own self, I need to be doing a lot more volume than I'm doing right now. So like, how can you not be the person that's only, how can you not be the only person that's attracting people to your business? Well, what you want to do first is figure out, okay, what's my avatar, what's my audience, what's the thing. You figure out kind of what you're selling, because you want to be very clear on that. Because if you're not clear on like your product, you're not clear on your offer, your audience, stuff like that, you kind of just go all in the wrong direction. You end up like spending all this energy and effort, let's say advertising, saunas, and you're really actually in the space of fucking, I don't know, what's an alternative to like having a sauna, but you're really in the business of ice baths or something. I don't know. So like, get your messaging right. And by the way, you literally go to your advisor, ChatGPT, and say, listen, here's what I do. Who is the most desperate avatar that needs this service that also can buy my service? Okay. And also don't make sure your product, or at least your core offer, it's got a little price to it. You know what I mean? It's much harder to sell like $10 things like 1,000 times versus selling, like just say one thing for $10,000 or two things or five things for 2,000. You know what I mean? Like, it's make sure that the unit that you're selling has, like, you don't have to sell this thing over and over and over and over again just to make any sort of money. Make sure you got something that's at least, I'd say at least $1,000. If we can get up to the $10,000 mark, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. But I get that as you're starting out, hard to say, yay, I want to do that. But at least aim for maybe 1,000. Like, I think 1,000 is a fair one. I think most people would say if I sold 10 units for 1,000 and made $10,000 for the month, I'd be happy. Some might not. But you got to think about it. It's like, if you want to be like a millionaire, right? And again, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not there yet. I'm on my way, working on all this stuff. But like, if you do the math of how many units that you have to sell per month, you pretty much need to make, the math is 83, pretty much roughly 84,000 if we round up to 333. But you pretty much have to make $84,000 per month to make $1 million, which means that if you were to logically do that and you had 2 units that you sold per week, that would need to be what, $8,000 per unit? Or sorry, not 8,000, $10,000 per unit? 8,000. 10,000. Yes, 10,000. Sorry. $10,000 per unit. and you sold, and we might be a little bit roughly off for the 4,000 that's missing from that 84, but roughly $10,000. 8 units at 8 units at 10,000 is $80,000. So you know might need to be 11,000 or 10.5. That kind of puts into perspective, like, of if you want to be a millionaire, the type of product or the amount of money that has to go through, and that's just top line. That's not like bottom line of actually having that service performed. Now, most of us probably aren't there yet, and that's okay. But can we like cut that into a quarter? Can I sell, let's say, 4 units at $5,000 for a month, right? So one $5,000 unit each week. Maybe that could be a goal, right? That could be a one where it's like, okay, you know what? I do think I can attract people that will buy this thing for $5,000, right? If not, that's okay. You gotta kind of run the numbers, right? And use ChatGPT right here to be able to brainstorm. You're like, what's the most realistic way for me to get to 1 million, or what's the most realistic way for me to get to 100,000 or to 250,000 or 100 or 500,000? What's my service? Who do I need to be selling to? So that would be something I'd do, kind of, because what happens is, if you don't get real about your numbers, all of a sudden you're going to be wondering, like, you're putting in all this effort, right? All this energy, and you're like, why am I not making the numbers that I thought I could make? And it's like, a lot of times it's like you're not selling the right thing because the thing that you're selling is just priced way too low. Now, you can absolutely have an attraction offer, right? So let's say that your goal is to sell something for the big offer that you're looking to do is, let's call it $1,000. So let's take it down from 10,000 to 1,000. What you can do is your attraction offer, and this is getting into offers, but this also has to do with leverage. Is you want your attraction offer to maybe be 5x less than your core offer, or in better words, the attraction offer or your core offer should be 5x more than your attraction offer. What I mean by that is, if I have a logo that I'm selling for, let's call it $1,000, maybe the attraction offer, the thing that gets people into the door, is I sell a flyer or a brochure or something like that for $200, right? That would be 5x less than what the core offer is. And that's enough to get people in the door. But if someone then comes in, because what happens is, most times when people are trying you out, took me a long time to learn this, is that they might actually have the cash flow to actually spend on you, but you're a risk. They don't know you from anything. So what happens is, most times people come in and they just test you. They don't say that it's a test, but a lot of times it's just a test. They come in, we test, see what you're about, and if you provide a good service, then they're like, okay, fine, I'm actually willing to invest a little bit of money because I believe I can trust this person can do this. Or what happens is, instead of them maybe leveling up to the core offer, maybe it's like, I want more volume of that initial attraction offer, right? So they buy 2, 3, 4, 5 more flyers or whatever from you, which then still pretty much equates to that 5x. Now, with all that being said, right, I want to kind of jump back to leverage. You need to be able to attract people to your business, to book appointments with you. And so what you could do, and this would be number 2 on the list, is you can pretty much hire someone off Fiverr, off Upwork, or whatever, from anywhere from like $5 to $10 or something along those lines per hour, to help you with pretty much your lead flow, with your attraction. And what I mean by that is, you've got, you can't do maybe all the warm outreaches all yourself, but I mean, you could, but you just spend all your time doing that. So instead, you pretty much there's a certain amount of money that you make in your mind, right? Let's say that you feel as though your time is worth $40 an hour, right? It would make sense for you to have someone else do something, a task that has to be done regardless, for a quarter of what you typically would make. That way, you can then use that other time to help close deals and just bring up cash revenue. It just, I don't, it's this concept of I can do it all myself that plagues us and stops us from actually building businesses and improving our businesses. The next one is like, I don't know if that person can actually do it. I can't trust that they know what they're doing. How do I know? And there's no easy way around this. It's just like you pretty much have to try someone out. That's it. I would recommend pretty much saying, I'm gonna put aside a certain amount of money. Remember, you're already cash flow. You're already injecting money into your business every couple weeks, every paycheck, right? So you're getting your paycheck. Let's say your paycheck is $2,000 or something like that, right? You're injecting, let's call it 10% back into the business. So you're going to put $200 back into the business every 2 weeks. Great. Now the question is what do I do with that $200? How do I get the best leverage on that money? Well, if you hire somebody, let's say you hire someone at $5 an hour, and you have them you don't want to do more than 10 hours per week until you really start to understand how everything works and flows. But let's say you hire someone for $5 an hour. You can pretty much say, okay, 10 hours a week, that's about $50 out of that 200 that you have. Great. You could, in theory, if you really, really wanted to get fancy with it, in theory, you could hire four people in total to cover bases with that $200, which is insane. That is absolutely insane that you could do that. That's ridiculous leverage for you to be able to do that, so that it frees your time so you can actually start to close, because you just don't have all the time to be able to do all the stuff. Now, what it might more look like is that you hire maybe 2 people, and then the other 100 needs to kind of go towards business expenses or whatever. Because again, you're small, you're just chilling, you're vibing, doing your thing. But you pretty much bought back, let's say you bought back minimum 10 hours per week for $50. Or you bought back, let's say maximum, if you're making $2,000 each check, maximum 40 hours per week. Now, that's just saying that if you just invested 10% back in your business, you may be crazy and awesome and be like, you know what, I'm willing to invest 20% into my business, right? You're kind of like, my expenses, my home expenses, all that stuff is at about 50% of my paycheck. My fund money is at, let's call it 20%, and then my savings is at 10%. And so then I have 20 more percent to invest in the business. Let me make sure I'm doing the math right. My brain. 50, 20 at 70, 10. Yes. Okay. Got it. So a business is an investment. You got to be able to put money in to make it grow. So if you were to put in, let's say you make $2,000 per check. If you were to put in, let's say $400 back into your business every 2 weeks, that would then, if you got really good at this, that would then mean that you could theoretically, if you really wanted to get fancy with it, at $5 an hour, and it may not be $5 an hour, it might be $10 an hour, it might be $8 an hour, it might be, it ranges depending on the talent on let's call it Upwork, but roughly in that zone, you can find good talent for roughly in that range. You literally could buy, let's call it, what's 40 hours is what, $200. Your whole week, you literally could buy your whole week back for $200. That's crazy. And you could buy 2 weeks, 80 hours for $400 if everything was at $5 an hour. But this is what I'm talking about. We're leveraging up. Now, we have to build the systems and we need to make the SOPs and all that stuff, but ChatGPT can also help you with that, right? You're like, how do I make sure this is really clear, and how do I kind of ChatGPT all the way. So that would be like, I'd say the second piece of leverage is hiring an assistant, or hiring someone that does warm outreach, or hiring someone on Upwork to be able to do your outreach, your attraction. Let's say that you combo ChatGPT. You say, okay, ChatGPT, I need you to write 100 posts. Okay, 100 posts from this blog post I just made, and then what you then do is you give those 100 posts to your talent, to the people to schedule. Let's call it in buffer, and that can all go out to your LinkedIn and your Twitter and your all the things, and Facebook and all the places. And you can, instead of you pressing post on all those and having to do that, you have someone else do it. And so you get like double, triple, quadruple leverage. It's just like ChatGPT pretty much wrote all the posts for you, done. Then you have a tool like Buffer that's going to put it on all your platforms, so you don't have to do it onesie twosie. And then you have someone from, let's say, Upwork, schedule all of them for you, and at their hourly rate versus your hourly rate. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And then lastly, delivery. Whenever you do finally make that sale, right? Let's say that you make that sale for $1,000, right? Remember the $1,000? Well, you want to find someone. You don't want to be the person that does the delivery. You want to find someone that can do that delivery for about pretty much 20% of what you made. So you want 80% profit margin. So what that means is you're able to sell that product for $1,000 and have someone else service it for $200. Okay, that's the big thing. So pretty much you now have all the time back that you would have spent delivering that. And most times we're really bad at delivering. Most times it takes us like 20 hours to deliver something, 40 hours to actually deliver something. So like we just bought back all that leverage for what, $200? Too easy. I'd make that trade every single time. You know what I mean? Every single time and it gets even crazier when you have, let's say, 90% profit margins. If you can sell something for $1,000 and have someone else service it for $100. And the best place for that would probably be Fiverr, right? You can go to Fiverr, get a fixed deliverable, right? You get a fixed deliverable, and you're able to, and there's so many different things. I wouldn't recommend, let's say, hourly with this, because hourly can just explode into infinite whatever. You want hourly for like reoccurring, ongoing tasks that just have to be done, that they're not complicated. But for something that is a little complex, or something that actually has you're like, this needs to be a specific way, definitely like do like, go to Fiverr, and of course you're going to have to find the people, right? You're going to have to find a few people to kind of get it all right. But I don't know what your service is, and I imagine you can still do this in your own industry, even if you're like, say, a tow truck driver or something like that. You can figure out how to negotiate deals, and then have someone else do it for, I don't know the margins really there, but like have someone do it for half, or have someone do it for a third or a quarter of what you're able to charge. But again, like I said, you want like that 80%, that 90%, right? Let's say I charge $5,000 for something, and I'm able to get it serviced for $500. It leaves a lot of room for profit in the business, which I then can use, right? Let's say I sell something for $5,000, and then I'm able to service it for $500. I now have $4,500 that I then can buy back more time and leverage with my team, or find other talent that then just keeps this endless cycle going. And I'm still just working my one day, my one Saturday, just chilling, hanging. Anyways, that's some thoughts about leverage, about how this stuff actually works in business, and why you really, really should not be the person doing the delivery, and why you cannot be the person doing everything all at once all the time. You have to be able to find and recruit talent, and you also can use AI, and then you also use automation tools like Zapier and MailChimp and all these different tools that can help you automate a lot of the stuff that you manually would typically do. All right, I hope you found that useful. If you want me to pretty much go in depth with your business, right? And you're in the Asheville area. Even if you're not in the Asheville area, I can do this via Zoom. But if you want to look at like your top line, what you're making, your bottom line, and really look at your constraint and figure out how to unlock the constraint and where you really need to go next and how we can practically get there, I'm down to do it. Click the link in the description below to book a in-person session with me, or a Zoom one if you're remote, and we will go ahead and do it and make it happen. All right, till next time, take care. Peace.